Welcome to the RealTea podcast, brought to you by Tennessee Realtors and sponsored by Rule First, helping you live closer to what matters. I'm your host, Angela Shields. This podcast is created for Tennessee Realtors to get the tea on all things real estate in Tennessee. We'll bring you engaging conversations with esteemed guests in the real estate industry and cover a wide array of topics, including current events, governmental affairs, education, and legal updates. All right, welcome to the RealTea podcast. And today we're going to have a little bit of a different show. We are going to have a version of our Roadshow, kind of a wrap-up session. Today I have with me part of our leadership team. So I'm going to introduce them real quick. We have our president for 2025, Will Sliger. Welcome.
Thank you.
We have our president-elect, Chris Garrett.
It's good to be here.
Yeah, good to see you. And first time to the show is our first vice president, Catherine Garland.
Hello. Long time listener, first time on the show.
Yes. And so Catherine, we have a tradition. The other two have done this before, so I'm not going to make them do it again. This is your hazing. So we have our question that, because we're called the RealTea, we asked everybody, what do you take or drink in your teacup?
Oh, well, it depends on the tea. If I'm having Earl Grey tea, it's lemon and sweetener. If it's I like oolong tea, and that's cream. And then I like chai tea, and that's really good too. It depends on my mood. And I like to dip treats in it.
You like lots of teas.
I do like tea, yes.
So if we need a new tea flavor, we're going to go to Catherine and find out which one.
Yeah, and it depends on my mood. So
awesome.
Quite a few of those.
Awesome. So like I said, we all just came off the Roadshow. And we had the whole entire executive team this year that was traveling on these roadshows. And we had lots of information that we were sharing and lots of stories that we could share. So I thought it would be a good idea if we just kind of came and had a discussion, not necessarily questions, but just discussion about the information that we were able to take to our local associations and talk about that. But also to share with our audience the information that we gained from visiting the local associations. So I'll just kind of kick it off and ask all of you, what was some of the memorable moments from the Roadshow? What did we learn?
Well, I'll start.
Oh, please.
By saying we wouldn't be here today without my fabulous driving skills.
Oh,
Lord.
And we did. Yeah,
we really wouldn't be here today. I mean, it was very close that we were not here.
When we start counting how many yellow lights we've ran on a Friday,
potholes.
I don't know if I would describe it as fabulous.
No.
We got there on time.
We did.
You were very efficient on getting there on
One
time.
piece, not so much.
Well, Chris almost got sick, I think.
Almost nothing.
I had to switch seats because he was like, man, I can't handle all this back here.
I got Dramamine for the next trip.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Like they're trying to work.
what I hear is y'all appreciate my driving. And
I appreciate my life today, that's for sure. I'm grateful for it.
Newfound meaning.
It is, absolutely.
Well, I'm going to say that we went from Memphis all the way to Bristol, and it was really encouraging to hear all of the different things that associations were doing for members. What were some of the things that stood out to you?
One of the things that first comes to my mind is the when we were at Robertson County and they were doing the stick horse race for the RPAC event. I thought that was so hilarious. What a great idea to be doing an event like that. I don't know why. I just can imagine all of them in the little stick horses just running down the street. So
I'll say, and while I do agree that's very
that was like the
clever.
first thing that popped in my head.
But there is it's almost like every stop each year, particularly from each grand division, but it's almost like the excitement, whether it be RPAC or it be raising money for children in the community.
Yeah.
It's like the excitement is just anteed up every time, and it's like we're continuing to expand upon that, which is great to see. But in some of the ideas that they come up with, it's really good to see.
Well, I agree. And I think it's really neat to see how important they are to their community.
I was thinking the same.
They do so, sometimes, by us going and getting to see, not only tell them what's going on with the state and national, but yet to hear all the things that they're doing locally to impact their community.
Right.
And it's like, it's greater than just, selling homes. It's really being a part of their community and giving back and making a difference. And like, really, there'd be a void in that community were they not there serving those purposes.
Yeah, and it's not just community, it's for the members, because all the classes that we heard about,
Yep.
the advocacy, how they're connected to the city council.
And what's going
school
on
boards.
in their different
Yeah.
areas and stuff. Yeah.
Yeah, it was amazing. It was amazing. So why don't we talk about some of the things that we were able to go and share with some of them had leadership, some of them had brokers, some of them had general members. I mean, it was a lot of people we were able to visit with.
I will say there was a lot. I was actually trying to think about, how many I would have loved to have known like the full number, because it's got to be way up there in the grand scheme of things. But, I will say, not only just from a numbers basis, I enjoy going and seeing people that I would have never met otherwise.
Right.
I mean, I do think that there's a lot of benefit to that.
Yeah. And this was my first year to be able to go to all the different divisions as part of the roadshow as, Division One vice president. I was just on the West up until this point. So there was a lot of people to that point that I was able to meet and see and connect with, like, where they live in the state and parts of the state that I've never actually seen before, which was pretty great experience.
Yeah, and with wheel driving, there's some one-lane bridges.
Yes, there was.
Some things that we've never seen before.
Yeah. There's some close calls. Yeah.
It's all right. We got there.
Some parts of my life that flashed before my eyes very quickly. It was lots of fun.
I will say, though, to Catherine's point, that's the one thing I have always enjoyed is when you hear a member talking about the areas they represent,
Right.
to be able to visualize that and understand, because Memphis is so much different than, say, Great Smoky Mountains, for example. And so when they talk about the areas they represent, it really does make a difference to see it and understand what they're talking about. But
And a large sense of pride.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, well, sure, it's Tennessee.
Oh, absolutely. So, well, I'll dive in. So one of the big things is that we want to continue that relationship of economic development, and we do believe, and statistically, I think you could prove it even more, that we live in the best state. When you talk about low cost of living, you talk about our workforce and opportunity. So, of course, we spoke about MIPIM, and the fact that while that has passed, those connections are still being cultivated, and our members. And I said it yesterday. I was like, I really hope and pray that all of this sweat equity of putting this. I can't wait until we now have members that are getting these relationships mended, and we end up. Not only from that standpoint of helping a member, but also to the benefit of the state and our economy. So, again, if you have one of those shovel-ready sites, we want to know where those are at, and I believe there'll be a link in the show notes should you have one of those.
And what was interesting is from the roadshow, we actually had members that were responding and sending those in. So that was really exciting to see as we traveled along, to see people responding to that.
Yes. And it's one of those things that I think has to be seen more of. It's a full blown marathon, and it's not a sprint, but it's great to see that we have the level of interest we have in the state, and that there are agents out there we're helping to facilitate those connections on the global market. So that was
Well,
really
and it's also, just on a simple level, like people don't even know what MIPIP stands for or what it means, and so it's like when they can connect that to, like, trying to bring, opportunities to the state in order to grow our state. That's where I think it clicks with members and stuff too. So being able to repeat certain information to where they hear it and they're like, oh, wait, I do have a spot that might be good for that. So, and throwing it out there. So.
Well, I think it shows the relationship too between our commercial members and our residential members.
Sure.
I've heard you say it before. It's like you got to have the doors to the roofs to have the jobs, or the jobs to have the roofs. So it's a symbiotic relationship. So it's a real focus, to really help our commercial members have a part in what we do.
Yep, absolutely. And it is a full blown, as I refer to it, a marriage.
Yeah.
It's a must.
Yeah.
So if you want those jobs, you need those rooftops in order to facilitate, and vice versa. And so I do believe this is a key way of helping facilitate that. So
Yeah. And then the other, you had another QR code you kept giving out.
Yeah. So my other one was sharing our story, and obviously we want to hear member stories, and we did get to hear from all that excitement and the pride and each of the associations and what they have going on. There is going to be a QR code or a link in the show notes. But yes, we want to hear member stories, and we want to be able to tell those. So if you click that link, you'll be able to share your story, and someone with the communications team will reach out to you.
I think it's important, I want to follow up just like sharing your story, because I think a lot of times it's, we deal with things every day for our clients, and we guide them through some of the toughest times in our life. People a lot of times say, "Oh, it's a transaction." Well, it's not really a transaction; it's a life change. Someone's, the family's growing, or someone maybe has left the home, and now they're having to make a change, or maybe it's a good time or it's a bad time, and we're oftentimes the mediator to go in and really, we're sometimes we're not just agents, we're counselors, and we fill a real void in a time in their life. It's important, and I think the stories are so crucial to show, like, why are we integral to the transaction? Why is it important that we're there as that the stopgap in those transactions? So it's important to know those stories.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And I do believe that to a certain extent, I don't think I've even done a great job myself at times in telling my story, and so being able to have that conversation across the state really made me look inward at, like, well, if I actually told my story. And so, but I do agree with you. I hope we all have we should have 30,000 plus stories at least. So.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And then I'm just going to call you the QR code king, because
I am the QR code king.
Because if it wasn't a QR code, you were doing text.
Oh, that's
right.
Yeah. So now that I don't have my nice presentation behind me, but yes, one thing that I did speak about that was obviously really near and dear to a lot of us, and in particular the state, because we've been no stranger to the Realtor Relief Fund, but is in fact the Realtor Relief Fund. We have seen devastation from West Tennessee to East Tennessee and in between. And what an opportunity to be able to make a contribution to a group that not only helps somebody in need, but gives our members the opportunity to make a 100% tax deductible donation, and know that every single penny that you intend to give actually winds up where you want it. And it's just an awesome opportunity that NAR has provided us by, essentially covering all the administrative costs. And so I've said it before, where else can you do that? You can't.
Well, apparently not Ducks Unlimited.
No, you're shooting ducks in the face.
Well, so to that point, yes, I know that, roughly 30% of every dollar that I give to Ducks Unlimited doesn't make it to actually the cause, because there are costs associated with it, and overhead. So, so Ducks Unlimited be second to Realtor Relief.
And if you donate, I just got my Realtor Relief pen, like my lapel pin before I came here. I was like, oh, I didn't know that they were sending these out, so you can get a cool pin.
They do have nice lapel pins.
Well, my wife was calling me the other day going through our credit card statement, and she goes, is this deductible? Is this deductible? And she's like, what is this Realtor Relief? I'm like, that's deductible.
Yeah.
Make sure you mark that down. So it is important that, they know that when you do give to Realtor Relief, it is tax deductible.
Yeah. And, you think about it, the amount of money that's already been given out this year, which we're getting close to $4 million, and, $500,000 went to Texas. And while that doesn't seem like a lot, we are only able to give, that's only able to be given out based on what we as members put in. And so there's always going to be a need for that. And so I'm hopeful that moving forward, more people see and realize, and they make that contribution regardless of what that amount is, because every single penny goes to that person in need. So,
what's interesting too is when you talked about it, it's, Texas is important, but, Tennessee saw
I was just thinking the same thing, the Hurricane Helene.
We had so much assistance because of that. And I think, a lot of the locals, they understood it because they saw it. Yeah. They saw it boots on the ground. They saw how quick, how efficient it was when they weren't getting assistance from the government very quickly. we were able to step in and really be a stopgap for some of that assistance and be able to get those funds to them really, really quickly. So it's neat to see that in your own hometowns and that it's actually working,
Yeah. Well, and you hate that those that understand it that well is because they've been that negatively impacted locally. But to your point, yes, there are ample opportunities, particularly talking about Hurricane Helene, where those associations are very familiar with it. I mean, it was essentially their backyard. You hate to see it, but it's good to know that there's an opportunity there. We just have to keep supporting it.
Rule First not only lends rule, but lives rule too. And as a cooperative, they can offer products and services other lenders aren't able to. From construction to land loans to financing homes in the country, they'll walk you through the process to make your rural dreams a reality. And because community matters, they're committed to investing in the communities they're a part of. Learn how you can get closer to what matters at rulefirst.com. Rule First is a registered trademark of Farm Credit Mid-America, NMLS 407249. Equal housing lender, loans subject to approval and eligibility. So the other thing that we were able to bring our members up to date with was advocacy. We had some big advocacy wins locally and nationally. And Chris, I know you had a lot of information on that.
Yeah, we talked about on the state level, one of the newest pieces of legislation was the grandfathering rule that was, now if you're a principal broker, you're no longer grandfathered, so you now have to have that 16 hours of continuing education. And that's legislation that we sponsored and made it through successfully. So, the times are changing so quickly. Our environment is changing so quickly. So we felt it was really important that our managing brokers were up to speed. And if they have people under them, that they're managing agents under them, that they were equipped to know what's going on and have the up-to-date information. So we thought it was really, really important to have that continuing education every 2 years.
I'm really excited because for you all to know that Denise Baker, who's the Trek executive director, she's coming to join me on a podcast here in the near future. And we'll talk a lot about that because I know we got a lot of questions on that.
Yeah. We talked about some things with NAR regarding clear cooperation, some MLS rules changes that allowed for some office exclusive listings, some delayed market listings. Talked about the importance of making sure that they had clear amendments signed by sellers. They understood the effects of having a delayed market listing or an office exclusive listing, what that meant for the seller. So really just bringing them a lot of information about that. And it was really interesting. I felt like a lot of the associations that we went to were really knowledgeable and had already were up to speed on a lot of the rules changes. And that was, I found that really enlightening just to be able to talk to them. And it wasn't like deer in the headlights. They really understood.
Yeah. There was like, no, what's clear cooperation?
Exactly. And I think the last thing, we talked about some advocacy wins. And I really think the theme this year was really the importance of all three levels of what we do as Realtor members. That NAR plays a critical role. Tennessee Realtors plays a critical role, and each and every local association plays a critical role in the benefit of the members, collectively. And I think with NAR, it was so interesting. It was just fun for me because I know as we go to the Hill every year, we go and speak to our legislators, and to actually see that be put into a bill as quickly as it was. And to be able to go and talk about that to the local association was really fun. Some things that was in the One Big Beautiful Bill Act. So one of the things was a permanent extension for lower individual tax rates. That was that original 2017 Tax Cuts and Jobs Act. That's now permanent. The qualified business income deduction, that 20% pass-through, that's now permanent. We felt like, as independent contractors, that was really beneficial to our membership. The quadrupling of the state and local SALT deduction. And, a lot of talk around the SALT deduction that it really only benefited the northern states. And to look and see there's a lot of opportunity for us here in the South, or especially in Tennessee, we don't have a state income tax, but we do have local taxes. You have tax on when you buy a vehicle, tax on certain things locally, your property tax that you can now deduct part of that. And that quadrupled. It went from 10,000 to 40,000. Mm-hmm. So that was huge, even, here in Tennessee.
My husband and I were actually talking about that last night, like what that means, because we deduct our property taxes already, but having that, sales tax or whatever qualifies for that, I was like looking in to see like what else we can deduct moving forward. I was like, because you got that much to play with and all that, and he's wanting to buy a car, so it's like, well, maybe we could be deducting some of that, and so just what that means for us, because it's just, again, like you said, not something that I've thought too much about, because it was always, my property taxes were around that amount, so it didn't exceed that amount.
No, for sure. 1031 tax exchange, always on the chopping block.
Right.
So we're constantly having to talk about the importance of keeping the 1031 tax exchange. And really simply, it's just you're delaying the tax burden on that, the gain tax on that property. Mm-hmm. So it allows our commercial members, and I thought about this, it's not even our commercial, it's anyone that owns an investment property. Yeah. Mm-hmm. I've taken advantage of that and been able to move into a different property. And had I had to pay capital gains on that property, I may not have made that move.
Right.
So there's a lot of homes that are, entered into the market because of that. There's a lot of businesses that are able to be into the market, and it creates inventory because of that 1031.
But you have to also look at it too, to your point, is that, it's probably 70-ish or plus % are mom and pops that take advantage of it. And it's not, the big corporations. It gives the smaller guy a fighting chance. Right. And I think people look at 1031s naturally. They don't think about actually how it's always utilized. I think they just think about, well, it's the big guy in the room, the 900-pound gorilla is the only one that's going to take advantage of it.
It's always been an independent mom and pop investor.
Yeah.
Well, I think so real estate goes, the economy goes. Mm-hmm. And I think that's an important part of how the economy is driven, is by keeping that deduction for sure. The last one we talked about was a permanent extension for the mortgage interest deduction. Now, a lot of our members are taking, they're filing long form, right? So being able to deduct that mortgage interest, but not only helps our members, but all of our clients that have mortgage, the mortgages, they're able to deduct the interest on those mortgages. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So after we covered that, we then really started focusing in on just upcoming events that our members could take advantage of. And what was really cool was not only are we doing some really good educational events and things coming up, but we saw a lot of our locals that are doing some great things.
Mm-hmm. And like you said earlier, not only from like a community standpoint, but the opportunity they've created for their members in the realm of CE hours or broadening their horizons when it comes to tech or safety. I mean, there's a litany of things that are out there that they're all doing. They're doing well at it.
Yes. Yeah. Why don't you share some?
Well, I was just thinking like what the next most current thing that's coming up would be the RPAC-a-thon, I would think. I was kind of trying to September 10th, which y'all are doing some fun stuff for the magic. I mean, is there going to be taking rabbit out of?
We're nervous because there's not a lot of secrecy around what's going to happen.
Well, other than just the magic of RPAC being the title of
Chris said he was going to grow hair.
Oh, well, that would be a magic trick, if anything. Exactly. And you too, buddy.
Exactly. Well, I think we were lip syncing last year, which I don't know if you can get any worse than that. So may have been some dancing, may have rapped a little bit, I think.
Oh, Lord.
It was...
Yeah,
it was.
I can't imagine. Well,
they've got a few magic tricks up their sleeves. Well, that will be unveiled the day of for our local associations.
Well, that's September 10th from 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. So all the local associations are participating in that. Of course, we have Asheville, which is coming up, our state conference where Chris will be installed as president, and it'll be nice to go to Asheville after, speaking of Hurricane Helene, to be able to, provide some economic input into their city and all that kind of stuff after that tragic event too. But just to keep in touch with that. But so that'll be fun, and there's a lot of great speakers, and inspirational breakfast will be happening, but it's not a ticketed event again this year. It's going to be an event where it's free, but part of the programming and everything. And I have to.
I think you're one of the speakers. Frank Caruso is the keynote.
Oh right, yeah. Mm-hmm.
That the book I read the book over the last week, and it's really interesting. I think it's timely because he really talks about your why, and it made me really rethink of what I thought my why should be, and then really what it could be. So I think that'll be a really timely keynote for a lot of our members. So I'm excited to see. After reading the book, I'm really excited to hear him talk.
Well, Rashmi Aaron is going to be our inspirational breakfast speaker, and she's an accomplished lawyer and self-proclaimed recovering investment banker. And she talks about her rise through the investment world and then her fall through an ethical situation that landed her in federal prison for 6 months. So that'll be interesting too. So I'm excited. Yeah.
That is very interesting.
It will. I'm dying to hear what this is all about. Like I have, watched a lot of, podcasts and stuff. So.
Taking notes on what.
I am. Well, I was about to say, is that like I've been watching Forensic Files in my hotel room since we've been here and stuff.
Well, I think it goes back to 10 sites. We just came back from 10 sites,
right?
And
that was awesome.
I really believe like these conferences are really going to add into our membership, their businesses. It's really going to add into their lives. It's really timely information. It's not just, I'm going to a conference and check it off. Like there's really meat on the bone with these conferences. And I think if you come to these conferences, you're going to walk away with something that you can take into your business and into your life. That's beneficial.
That is the hope. Like when we have any event is that it'll be worth your time. It'll be time well spent, and you'll leave feeling like, it was a great event for you to participate in.
So real quick, in the show notes, we're going to put a donation drive that we're doing, because you mentioned we're going to Asheville. Right. And the DEI committee, they are going to do a donation drive. We're there to help. So I do want to make sure that we kind of plug that in. I know we're going to be pushing time on this podcast. So I want to make sure that we get what they're collecting. So if you are going, then you can bring that. But I also want to throw in one little thing. We got a lot of questions on why do we go out of state?
Oh yeah.
And I want to make sure we clear that up for everybody. So we kind of got into a weird cycle because of COVID. We had the joint conference with Region 4, it got canceled, and then we had to go back and make that up, and we contract out so far. Mm-hmm. So we actually have a policy that we rotate our conferences from west to east, and then on the third time we go out of state, and that's been going on for years and years and years and years, like many years. We are back in our rotation, and we just happen to be out of state again. So next year it'll go back to the west. The year after that it goes back to the east, and then it'll go out of state again. Mm-hmm. But it's been in a rotation like that for way beyond time.
And it's one of those things, you have contracts already in place and you have to satisfy those.
Right.
It's a little wonky. I remember it was like 2020 we were supposed to do that Region 4 conference in Savannah, and then it got kicked out to 21 or 22. And so it's just like, and then
I think.
Of those kind of.
Well, I think we're so far removed from COVID that most people don't really. They try and forget about that. But this is one of those lasting ripples. So it's almost out. Mm-hmm. But, here we are.
Yeah.
So
here we are. But we do get asked that, because some people are like, do we go out of state every year? Yeah. The answer is no to that.
Yeah.
And we do have some other realtor conferences that come to Tennessee from other states. So it's an interesting dynamic that we have. But
and I think it's important to note, kind of how those decisions are made too. We have an advisory committee that our members serve on. We also send out surveys after, and so we really try to do a good job of taking the temperature consistently when we have these conferences of what are they enjoying, and we find a lot of people do enjoy going.
They would go to the beach every time if we would pick that place. They love going out. Yeah. But yes, you are right. We do take the temperature of the members, and we listen.
That's another reason why it's like always answer those surveys. I mean, we send them out after the conferences and everything, and we want to know, how people felt about the event and what we could do better and what they liked and didn't like.
Right. So, and ask for, we even asked them if they have speaker suggestions, and things like that. Yep. Yeah. So any other events?
Well, it seems like I can't even believe we're saying that NAR annual in Houston already, but that's in November, November 14th through the 16th in Houston, Texas. There'll be top tier sessions on business strategy, market trends, good education, innovation, and our governance meetings are always then as well. And then here in Nashville, we're going to be having our advocacy week, which or advocacy training, where it's the president-elect training, chair, vice chair training, and then our advocacy training. And that'll be December 4th and 5th here in Nashville. But again, I can't even believe that we're already talking about December, but it will. It's like in a blink of an eye, it's going to all be here. And then we do have our Candidate Training Academy, which the application I know just opened for that. That'll be in October 22nd here in Nashville as well. So if you have any interest in running for office, learning how to run for office, how to campaign and all that kind of stuff, the application registration for that is open right now. And that'll be coming up I was about to say next month. It's almost next month, October 22nd, 2 months from today. But I know, I'm like living in the future here. But yeah, it all happened so fast though.
You think about the NAR conference.
Yeah.
And for someone that maybe has not attended a conference or they've not gone, it seems overwhelming, right? It's a national conference. There's going to be thousands of people. It's just overwhelming. But I can remember going to probably my first, NAR conference and had no clue what I was on no committees. Then I didn't know what to do. But you go and it just opens your eyes to like, it's easy to go them when you see, a lot of times you like locals are like, oh, it's us, right? And then NAR is them. Right. Somehow it's somebody else. But it really is just us.
It is
us.
At
the end of the day, it's just us.
It's us on local committees. It's us on state committees. It's us on national committees. We're a member-driven organization in all three levels, and we make the decisions that are moved up that way. And
Tennessee has done an amazing job of volunteering on the national. We have a lot of people in committees, chairing committees, vice chairing committees, and so they're helping shape the future of what NAR does. And you see how that works on the national level, and it's a sense of pride for me to be a member at all three levels and to see what all we do. And there's a lot of changes in our industry and how we're adapting to those changes. Now we're moving the ship, and I'm excited to see what the next few years. And I say if you've not, I would say if you're watching this today and you've not attended, go do it.
The NAR has a first-time attendee group. They always ask, is this your first time attending when you register? And they kind of try to get people together to learn about it if they've never been. And we as a state have a first-time attendee, scholarship that we do for if you've never been to a Tennessee Realtors Conference in the spring and fall to apply for registration and compensation for your nights and stuff, up to $1,500. So if you haven't been to a state conference, I highly recommend you applying for that as well. So
I'm going to plug this in here because you guys kind of have segued it in. I think there's a lot of our members that don't understand the way everything functions together. So I think it's a great time to for us to chat as we wrap up about how NAR and the state and the local all fit together, because we hear a lot, why do I have to be a member of the National Association of Realtors? Why do I have to be a member of the state? Can't I just be a member of the local? And we always talk about the three-way agreement. And so we did take time as we visited to explain that, because I think we've been saying for so long the three-way agreement, and it's jargon, right? I mean, it's kind of like we use a lot of jargon in the realtor world. We use a lot of acronyms, and it's a little bit confusing. And so we tried to explain there's not actually an agreement that we can hand to people and say, read this will explain it all to you. It's not really like that. the way that I try to explain it is the three-way agreement really is the charter of the National Association of Realtors, that we've all been around for over 100 years. And way back then, when our organizations formed, we just all agreed that we were going to abide by the bylaws. We were going to abide by the NAR policies. And as such, we could set up our individual independent businesses to run a realtor organization. And that is why we call it the three-way agreement, because national agreed to stay in the national lane, state agreed to stay in the state lane, and local agreed to stay in the local lane. And by doing that, we all agreed that we would service that realtor member, that they would be a member of all three. I always like to look at it this way, because if you were trying to service the member and do all three lanes, then it would almost be impossible, because there's no way that we at the state could go and take care of everything that's happened at the national level. There's just no way we could be at Capitol Hill taking care of the bills you just talked about. Can you imagine? No.
Not a chance.
And I said to several, like, Catherine, there's this issue going on with licensing, that they want to make you, and instead of being an independent contractor, they want to make you have to do a W-2 and be an employee. Can you go be at the Capitol every day to talk to every single member of Congress and every senator? Can you be in their office every day and give up your real estate?
And to know who in those, who to talk to. That's the other thing that I always find so impressive, is that they know who the person is that they need to go to
and then when you're done with that issue, let me give you the hundreds of other issues you need to go take care of that. Oh, and by the way, after you get through with all the federal, at the same time, there's all these state issues going on that you need to take care of as well. It's just impossible. Oh, and then also go and handle all the local issues in all those other counties. Yeah. It's just impossible. And that's why the three-way agreement works so well, just advocacy alone. And when you think about how much, your locals, they have their fees, state, we have ours, and then national has theirs. But when you break it down to how much you're paying a year, just for advocacy alone, to have that taken care of, it's a no-brainer, right? And then on top of that, you get all of these benefits. And I know we went over all these benefits that you get. At the state, what are some of your favorite benefits?
Well, the legal hotline is always one, because I definitely read that whenever the TR Digest comes out. I like reading them at the bottom. It is a good tool as a managing broker to be able to use as a sales meeting and answer questions. And sometimes it's something that I haven't even experienced yet or had come up, like, oh, that's good. I need to remember that or talk about it. And of course, the statewide forums I'm a huge fan of, just because I like the consistency and staying the how it protects us all. And then you mentioned the advocacy on the national level. Well, one of the things is our health insurance. I was one of the people at the state who was on our health insurance program, that we had the association health plan. And I knew what that all entailed for you to get involved and for it to be, shut down and to now have some other option, now that's not an availability for cap care to be an option to be able to have some kind of health insurance is all things that I think are great. That behind the scenes that you don't really think of. When you look at also transaction desk, Athenasign, all of the, vendor benefits that we use. I paid for my own DocuSign, my own signing program separately, which was much more than what I paid for my state dues, annually. So it's one of those things that I think people don't realize, all of the things that are provided for that $105 a year,
But on the NAR side, just RPR alone.
RPRs are great. I use it every time I'm looking at comps for listings. So
I had a broker call me the other day with a question, a fellow broker, and I was like, well, what you have there is a legal question that I'm not equipped to answer. Right. I said, the good thing is there's a legal hotline, and I pointed him to it. He asked a question, and I think putting an attorney on retainer alone would be more than the cost of the membership. So you can look. There are singular items that were you to do it on your own would cost way more than the membership that you get each year at each level. I was looking that the advocacy team at NAR, I think they'd had over 5,000 meetings last year. I mean, I think that's unbelievable to think that they have met that many times, and what you have to do in order to, affect change in a lot of this legislation, how many meetings you actually have to, it's just mind-boggling. And then for someone, to question the value, it's unbelievable where you can just take singular pieces that are worth more than the entire membership. And it just, we could go on and on.
Mm-hmm. I always think of the $156 that we paid to NAR as my investment in my career, in what I do, and like the advocacy work that we do, because it's obviously, like you said, nothing that I could go out and do at all. But it's one of those things that I've always kind of had that thought on advocacy of, it's working for me whether I decide to buy into it or not. Whether I donate to RPAC and buy into that, it's working for me whether I appreciate it or I do it or not. And so I've always wanted to be the type of person that participates in the world around me. I want to be a part of the solution, not the problem. So I have no problem, investing in RPAC and investing the $156 in the well-being of the housing industry and in residential and commercial real estate, and for the long haul. That's what I feel like I can do. So it's not anything that I have a problem doing, but I just sometimes think people do not look at it that way and realize all that.
And I'll say, I think to your point, you mentioned forms and you mentioned your items, and we look at it, as a dollar value, as a savings. Mm-hmm. But if you look at forms just for what it is, you're using a document that's been legally tested, and vetted, that's vetted. Mm-hmm. And there is a much bigger price tag to be put on that than just what it would cost to have a singular document drawn up. Right. And I think that really gets overlooked a lot. There's a lot of value in that.
And there's a lot of work that goes into that committee too, the Residential Forms Committee.
Well, and it's been the benefit of the changes, how the forms have been able to be changed as the times have changed, the market changes, and we've had to go in and move with the market. Yeah. And how those, it's the longevity of the forms that's really important, and how consistency over a long period of time that creates the value in those forms too.
And going back to like the legal hotline point too, is that I saw an invoice the other day for an attorney who took a look at something. I don't know how long they spent, $350. I was like, you just look at it was just like a phone call, and that's how much it costs. And I'm just, again, go back to like, well, if you pay a year for that service, to be able to type in and say, hey, I have a question, and they get back to you in a few days.
And it's part of your
dues. Yeah. It's not an added thing. It's like, so if I wouldn't contacted an attorney, it would be several $100.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah.
Well, I am going to kind of wrap us up and ask if you have any final thoughts from the Roadshow information that we sent, because this time has gone by fast.
Yeah.
Chris?
Yeah, I'll say sometimes it's easy. I don't know when I started, volunteering on the local level. I remember going to like the first general membership meeting and not knowing anyone there. Right. And the benefit of the relationships that I've made and the knowledge I've gained, the feeling of pride of what we do for our members, for our clients, for the communities. I can't imagine me doing what I do in real estate without the membership part of it. I wouldn't want this to ever go away. And I can't imagine a world where we weren't able to have the protection of what we have in this membership. And I think the Roadshow has just really strengthened the relationship between our local associations and the state association to understand how we just benefit each other. And the things that they need, we provide resources, but we just can't, they implement so well. They do that, and we're a lot of times a stopgap between, or the conduit rather, not, the conduit from NAR to bring information down to show what is going on at the national level. So it's just been a pleasure to be a part of the Roadshow and to be able to see it for myself.
I would agree with that. I was thinking like the flow of information, like what I learned on the Roadshow is that all of our locals, like I'm in Memphis, and so I know like kind of the things that go on in my local association and all the stuff they provide, but so many of there's so much they're offering, but also they're all so similar in the sense, and yet so different, but like so similar in the fact that they're all trying to meet the needs of their individual, so that we can all be small business owners and work our business and put food on our table. That is like the main crutch of what our members care about, is to be able to, provide for our families and lives and everything, and how well that we help them do that, and the locals are the first line that sees the members on a regular basis. And then sometimes they don't always know that connection between state and national. And so to be able to have that open communication to kind of flow back and forth, and so and see how we can help and what they're doing to help, it's always very encouraging and uplifting to see what's going on around our state. So
I'll agree with that. And I'll say, to your point, there is this different autonomy with each one.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, while they all may be different, we're all Tennessee Realtors. We're all members of the National Association. And so while we have that difference, we're still on the same team. It is refreshing to see that there is, regardless of what market they're in, or regardless of the times, there's still a desire of our members. And I think we have the greatest members ever, but that want to engage in their community. They want to engage in their professional development. They want to give that great service to those that they serve. It's really been a fantastic time on the road to be able to witness that. So,
and what I'm going to say is to the three of you and the other officers and DVPs is it takes a lot of time for you all to do that road show all year long, and you're volunteers. You do not get paid for what you do, and so you are amazing.
And we almost
people.
paid with our life.
With Will's driving, that's true. But we really appreciate that you're willing to go and travel the state, and you're willing to go and meet the people at their local associations.
Well, we appreciate them having us. Really, amazing. It's one of those things that we're always so excited that they let us.
It's truly been an honor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's been fun. I think about, we can't make someone successful in their business, but I think our job is to help create an environment that allows them to become successful.
Mm-hmm. You know what I mean?
Well, it's very much appreciated. Thank you all very much, and thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Yeah,
thank you.
And that's the tea.
Thank you all for joining us today on the RealTea podcast. If you enjoyed this episode, please share it with your friends and colleagues. Then visit tnrealtors.com to submit your questions and topics for future episodes of the RealTea podcast. Thanks for listening.